How's it going, guys? I am here with your AE Dynamite Bash at the Beach review. So yeah, they finally pulled that one out of the bag. They trademarked Bash at the Beach, which was really weird because I thought that WWE had trademarked every single WCW pay-per-view when they purchased the company and got the rights to the tape library. That was odd, but now WWE is actually suing them over the Bash at the Beach rights, and is it really that big of a deal? But I guess rightfully so. It is their property. But this was something that was suspected for quite some time because it is, it's Bash at the Beach. It's a WCW pay-per-view. And I find this funny, because AEW is supposed to be about the future of wrestling, the young talent. We're not going to do WWE tactics. We're not going to have, guys with big noses keeping people down. We're not going to have, bodybuilder obsessed billionaires anymore. We're not going to do any of that. We're gonna push all the small, high-flying guys. We're not gonna be the next coming of WCW. And the funny thing is, everyone is making fun of them, even at that time, even before they got on the air, even before they had a single event, a single match, held a single press conference. People were saying they want to be like WCW, especially when they were announced for TNT. I mean, I'm not going to hold that against them. Just because Nitro was on TNT, that doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. Hey, it's one of the top cable networks. I mean, TNT, I think, is actually better than the USA Network. I think that they have more highly rated shows. I could be wrong about that. I don't really know. I'm not an expert when it comes to ratings, but this is someone who's not an AEW fan who's doing this review, telling you that that's nothing to scoff at. It's TNT. It's a Turner owned station. It's a successful station. It's had many years of success. More people talk about TNT than they do the USA Network. Okay, so with that in mind, then they talk about how they're trademarking Bash at the Beach. They also trademark some other old pay-per-view name. I think it was another WCW one, whatever the case may be. And for some reason, you would think that Bash at the Beach would be like a pay-per-view, something important. No, it's just a subtitle. And they've been doing this very annoying thing, which, I had some reviews here that were neatly, numbered here. I know we skipped a few weeks because I needed a break from this show. But, instead of doing episodes, then they started doing they started doing the subtitles on there. Like last week, it was the anniversary show. The week before that, it was Homecoming. All these ridiculous, first of all, anniversary. They're celebrating, and if anyone was questioning what the anniversary show was, I didn't really talk about it. As I edited that video, I realized, oh man, I forgot to mention why the show was subtitled that. It was because it had been 1 year since they did their first press conference, and that was the reason why it was an anniversary. It was 1 year since AEW became official when they did the press conference for AEW, the official press conference, I suppose. I don't know, but anyway, and they did the Homecoming, which was they took 1 week off, and it was a homecoming. Okay, so this one was Bash at the Beach. So let's get excited because it's an old WCW pay-per-view. And, okay, they did decorate. They had some surfboards. They had little sand. They had an attractive girl sitting in the lifeguard chair. So, they didn't even have that in WCW. So, they spruced things up. It wasn't, as cool, and it had as much sand and as much spectacle as WCW. But then again, this is just a another episode of Dynamite with a subtitle. And there's no reason to call it Bash at the Beach other than, hey, remember Bash at the Beach from WCW? Let's try to fool some people into, like, saying, hey, I remember Bash at the Beach. So if they see the subtitle, they're going to watch. So that's what that was about. They didn't plan on having a pay-per-view be called, Bash at the Beach. It was just a subtitle. So basically they trademarked that thing just so they could do it the most useless random way possible. And we start off, like in the most forgettable way possible. We have another like 4-way tag match. Kenny Omega, Adam Page defeating Santana and Ortiz, the Young Bucks, and the Best Friends. All these tag teams, all they do is lose. The Best Friends, they lose. The Young Bucks, they lose. Santana and Ortiz, I think they win sometimes. Kenny Omega and Adam Page, like, I don't get it. It's, at first it was supposed to be, I think, like a friendly rivalry of sorts. I don't know. It's very strange how feuds go in this company. They're very, start-stoppy. Nothing ever really gets resolved. You had Pac and Omega in a feud. They quickly forgot about that because they had to move on to Omega and Moxley. And the funny thing is, like, the company is still young. Despite Anniversary, they've only been on TV since October. They've had a few pay-per-views here and there, but, the thing is, how can you mess up this bad, this early, into your life cycle? I mean, like, you would think, like, in the beginning, things are fresh, no, they've already gotten to the worst stuff. It's kind of like a relationship. They say the first month or the first few months are the best, right? Because you're getting to know the person. It's fun and everything. It's new. It feels special. That's exactly how this company is. But the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. It's bad right from the start. There's no reason to continue on. She's already shown her true colors, meaning, am I talking about Brandi Rhodes or am I talking about AEW? No, I'm talking about AEW. We'll get to Brandi Rhodes in a minute. We're going to touch on it because she actually wrestled on this show. Yeah, Brandi Rhodes wrestled. So with that in mind, we can officially call Bash at the Beach Bash at the Yeesh. That's exactly what they should have called it. Bash at the Yeesh. Ooh. Like chills just thinking about Brandi Rhodes wrestling somewhere on this card. Okay, so let's, go. It's a random tag match. Nothing was accomplished, Was it for number one contender? I don't even know at this point. SCU are the tag champs, but they're nowhere to be found. I think they might have had some like promo or something. I don't know. It feels like a mishmash. Champions don't feel like champions. Main eventers don't feel like main eventers. No one even feels like a star. And the thing is, they announce on this show that they've been, approved through 2023, so another 3 years of this absolute mess, this hot mess of AEW Dynamite being on TNT. Okay, so, and I love the promo that they do, you're the number one, they say the number one spot for wrestling, or however they worded it. Number one? Like, how can they make that claim? They're not the number one show. SmackDown and Raw, despite the bad ratings, did better. There was a few nights where NXT did better. Okay, I think, to be fair, because I know, it's like I don't even like NXT. I don't watch it. But people get mad when I mention that. Hey, a few nights NXT beat them. It's a WWE product. Are you surprised by that? I know you want your beloved AEW to remain the top, company or league, league in town. Um, all right, so let's move on here. But those are the facts. But they've been approved through 2023, so this show's going to be around for a while. Cody Rhodes gets in the ring and cuts a promo. And I gotta be honest, I don't care, how much people badmouth me for this. I spaced out during this. I'm just like, huh? Something about the way Cody Rhodes talks, ever since he did that disfigured gimmick, he's never been able to break out of that tone of voice, and he's still talking really weird and mysteriously, and it really doesn't make any sense because now you're the vice president of the company. Why are you still acting weird like Stardust and and the disfigured Cody Rhodes? You're just Cody now. So you're Sody Rhodes, man. Like, okay, it's just everything about this guy, everything encircling him, his wife, his world outlook is cringy. It's everything about Cody is so dislikable. But indie fans love him. They don't like his wife, thankfully. That's the funny thing. You would think like people would like Brandi. They would say, oh, well, at least she's hot. They would say stuff like that, but it's the fact that like they're so cringy together, and mostly her, because I don't really see AEW fans saying anything bad about Cody, but they're saying plenty about Brandi. And that's like the funny thing about this show, and I mentioned it last week. Brandi Rhodes is this gothic leader, that she's evil, she's a heel. And here's Cody Rhodes being, the white meat baby face here. It's totally ridiculous. We're seeing, a heel wife here, and they promote themselves heavily as being a couple. And Brandi Rhodes is always posting pictures together on social media. We're doing the same WWE stuff. Oh, never mind the hundreds of pictures contradicting this stuff in the ring and in the company, that we post on social media. Believe all the fake garbage that you see on a wrestling show. I said it time and time again. It's time to tear down the walls and just, try to blur the lines between reality. Everyone knows it's fake. There's not a single person on this planet besides Dave Meltzer that thinks that this stuff is real. So, we might as well get this stuff to be a bit more interesting, get it to be a bit more lifelike and believable and relatable. God forbid it be relatable, and we can watch this show and identify with certain characters, that way. So when we do follow them on social media, we could say oh, well, I agree with Cody Rhodes and whatever. I would never say that, but there's people out there. But you know what I mean. If why have them, freely act how they want on social media? And here in AEW, there's no repercussions for any actions. At least in WWE, if they do something really stupid, they might pay for it. Here, they just go hog wild, basically. So Cody does this promo, and I just still looking at the explanation of these rules listed for his match with MJF. Cody Rhodes is having a grudge match with MJF. He says MJF, he uses the word heel. He prides himself on being a heel. Ooh, we're breaking the fourth wall. First of all, with no character development or anything of that nature, and you're already starting to bring out wrestling lingo, we don't even know anything about MJF. We see that he's kind of a jock character. We see he's a jerk, but we don't know anything about him. So, it's really funny when they try to have characters, but they don't have character development. And if you're not going to develop the character, then what's the point of having characters? Is it even really a character if you're not going to develop it? I don't know. You tell me what you think. I would really like to know, what do you think of the MJF character? Do you really let me know in the comments, do you think that this is really a good character? Because everyone I see is always praising this guy. And I don't get it. This is supposed to be like the indie darling organization. And MJF is, not really anything too special. That's what's funny about indie fans. Like, you won't say anything good about any of the guys. Like, you look in WWE, every single smark bashes the really talented guys, and so does Meltzer, and so does Keller. You've got guys like Elias and, Bobby Lashley, and really talented guys like that. And guys with a look, guys that actually seem like they could be the next big stars, but they get bashed. MJF, to me, I look at him, I don't really see a whole lot there. That's just a personal opinion, but for some reason, I see Smark saying that this is one of the greatest heels they've seen in years. I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry, I don't see anything here. But Cody Rhodes is agreeing to a match. He's agreeing to have 10 lashes just so he could wrestle him. No title on the line, no stakes, no nothing. He's that desperate that he'll wrestle a cage match, that he won't touch him. Like, does anyone realize how stupid that sounds? Okay, if this was for a world title, I get, the heel is getting the upper hand. You can't touch me. There's no title on the line. The last match that they wrestled for a world title, he gave up the right. So they already wrote off that storyline. So here's the thing. Why doesn't Cody Rhodes just sneak into the guy's dressing room and beat the living daylights out of him? Like, look how stupid this sounds. Oh, you can't touch me, or you can't have a match against me. Who cares about having a match? Isn't the whole reason they're having the match is so Cody could beat up MJF? So if that was the case, why doesn't he go and just beat up MJF then? Why have the match? Why have the cage match? And that's the funny thing. I'm sure when he faces Wardlow in the cage match, and also that was the other thing. It was like he was half agreeing to these things, then looping back around, like no structure, and he actually goes through all 3 points, but then goes back to the second point, and then he also starts from the third point. So if they were going to start from the third point, why did they not put the third point at the top of the list instead of him having go from bottom to top? When has anybody ever wrote a list like that? That makes no sense at all. You're going to start from down here. Like he's reading backwards. This is like, he's reading it like Magna, or he's reading it like Hebrew. He's reading it from right to left. It's nonsensical. What is this? It's stupid. It looks ridiculous. And he's rambling on and on about these points and the stipulations. They don't even make sense. How hard is it to make wrestling stipulations that make sense? I've said it for years on this channel. It's laughable when they make wrestling complicated. It's wrestling. It's men in tights. It's nothing too crazy. Have some interesting storylines. Have some interesting characters. Have a match by all means, but have an interesting storyline. But instead of an interesting storyline, we get ridiculous stipulations. And Cody Rhodes talking in his really weird but still somewhat monotone voice, rambling on and agreeing to things that don't even make sense. If you listen to this promo, you would believe that Vice President Cody Rhodes is the dumbest person on the planet, and he's an authority figure for agreeing to wrestle a guy and get 10 lashes. He's actually going to get down on his hands and knees and take lashes from MJF just so he could wrestle the guy, just so he can pin the guy's shoulders to the mat. It makes no sense. It's all about honor, I suppose, right? Is that what we're going to say? Are we going to use the old Ring of Honor excuses? Oh, it's all about prestige and honor. Yeah, sure it is. Really believable stuff. It's really going to bring in ratings, right? prestige and honor, the honor of having a wrestling match, an athletic performance, with sportsmanship. Come on. Then we get Chris Statlander and Sheeta defeating Brandi and Mel. I think her name is Mel Rose. Like, that's the funny. She's like with this girl, but they barely say her name. I don't think Awesome Kong was at ringside, but what's his name was there? Luther. We still don't know who Luther is. Luther's getting beat up by Sheeta. So here's the death match guy. So and then you got Sheeta, just some Japanese chick, just breaking what was it, a flag or something over him. I guess with Tessa Blanchard being the world champion, you can expect this stuff to become commonplace because fans love that too. But Brandi is in here, and it's like, what is she even doing in there? Like, I mean, do you does anyone realize that Brandi is not a wrestler? She was hired to be a ring announcer in WWE. And she got out of there with Cody because of Cody, and now she's a wrestler. Oh, look, I'm a wrestler, just like my husband. Okay, great, fantastic. The thing is, I'm sorry, but I believe that Stephanie McMahon is a better wrestler, a better character, or at least she used to be, than Brandi. But of course, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So Brandi's going to get in there just like Stephanie did, just like her husband Triple H, and try to wrestle a match. It could have been worse. It wasn't really bad or anything, but I'm just saying, like, she's there for the women. We're not going to hold the women back. We're not going to hold the men back anymore. We're not going to be WWE. And what happens? Brandi Rhodes is taking up a spot that could go to another woman. No Riho. No Awesome Kong, who's on her team, by the way. Don't put any of those in there. Don't put Nyla Rose in there. No, put Brandi in there. We're not holding anybody back. We're not gonna be like WWE, and there you go. Exactly like WWE. Exactly like Triple H. Exactly like Stephanie. Exactly the same way. Let's put authority figures in matches. Not that I'm against it, but I'm just saying, if you're trying to be different than WWE, here you are being a hypocrite. This is, hypocritical example number 731, and they only started in October, by the way. Then they do a commercial for the Dark Order. Like, what are we doing? 1 week they're there, 1 week they're doing some phony commercial, advertising a website, doing a boardroom, them reaching out to people through their Gmails. I mean, like, what happened? I understand that they're trying to pull back the reins after that huge fiasco, with the missed punches and stuff that went viral. Hey, I know you're embarrassed by that, but they still continued on. There was a bit of action last week with them, but now they're right back to being, featured in vignettes. And I get it. At least they're acknowledging them through vignettes. At least they're keeping consistent and they're keeping them as characters on the show. But once again, I have to say, should I be hypocritical and say they're not keeping consistent, and not show them, even though I don't want to see the Dark Order? This is what I've been saying. This is how bad of a show it is. It's like deep down, you don't want them to be consistent because it's a bad show, because the stuff they had on last week was so terrible that you want new stuff. But then it looks really bad if they don't show the stuff that they showed last week and follow up on it. You know what I'm saying? It's a weird, like, catch-22. Jon Moxley is taken to the limit by Sammy Guevara. and Guevara. I think I was saying that name wrong for a while. Guevara. So here's your next Eddie Guerrero. And who would think that my favorite commentator of all time, JR, would be single-handedly responsible for making one of the very worst comparisons I've ever heard in my life? I mean, honestly. Really, like, I mean, what? Besides these two wrestlers having similar sounding last names and both being Hispanic and playing that up to their gimmick. First of all, he's not even playing it up to his gimmick. Jericho nicknamed him a Spanish god. Eddie Guerrero actually played up the Latino gimmick. Called himself, not someone else, called himself Latino Heat. Came to the ring stereotypical with a lowrider, calling his girlfriend Joni Lawler China, Mamacita, doing funny, entertaining things, the Los Guerrero vignettes. I mean, lying, cheating and stealing, doing comical spots, playing up to the gimmick. You think of Eddie Guerrero. You think of all those classic Eddie Guerrero moments, classic psychological filled matches. Eddie Guerrero, such brilliantly wrestled matches. Like, you want to see how you do a smaller guy versus a big guy? No Way Out 2004. Undoubtedly one of the greatest matches of all time. Maybe one of Eddie Guerrero's strongest matches of all time. I mean, people always, want to go back to Eddie Guerrero and WCW. Eddie Guerrero had one hell of a career in the WWE. I mean, you watch this guy wrestle JBL. You watch him. This guy was like, when it came to wrestling bigger guys, they really booked smart. And the other thing is, Eddie Guerrero had a great physique. Eddie Guerrero was jacked to the gills. You look at Sammy Guevara, and it's pretty safe to say that, Guevara might be doing some cardio, but it doesn't look like he's doing any weight training. It doesn't look like he's doing, anything. Really, that's that noticeable. I mean, the guy doesn't have a gut or anything, but you look at him, and he also doesn't have a six-pack. When Eddie Guerrero called himself Latino Heat, you know what I'm saying? And he posed and he had the physique and he looked like a star. The music was playing. He had China at his side. He was in the lowrider. He looked like a star. He was a star. He spoke like a star. He had promo skills. Now, I will say, Sammy Guevara does, he talks well. He does seem like he could be entertaining, but they haven't really given him a chance yet to show that off. But, it's like he doesn't look like anything special. He looks like a kid. And I realized that Eddie Guerrero was once young too, but Eddie Guerrero as a kid looked like a star, and most people were recognizing him as a star. He was standing out more. And, I mean, well, the thing was also when he got to WWE, they fleshed out his character big time. When he got there in 2000, writers knew what they were doing, and they really fleshed out the Latino Heat gimmick. They let Eddie Guerrero, pretty much pull that thing off, and I think let him kind of, improv a bit on there. So just to compare the two is just, I mean, it irks me to say the least. I think you can tell I don't like the comparison. I think it's stupid. I think it's unwarranted. It's like, I get it. JR was trying to say something good about this guy. He was reaching. He just reached a little too far. He went a little too far there. Anyway, Sammy taking Moxley to the limit. I mean, really? Taking Moxley to the limit. I mean, this is what I'm saying here. You have your world champion taken to the limit by Darby Allin, taken to the limit by Jungle Boy. I mean, at what point is any star allowed any dominance? So they look like big stars. So they look like, that it's hard to beat them. No, here, like, anyone could win. This is AEW Dynamite. This is the glorified indies. Anything could happen. The thing was, remember when they said, back when it was WWF, they said anything could happen in the WWF, and they really meant it. There were big surprises. But they meant within reason. You weren't going to see the Brooklyn Brawler pin The Undertaker. You weren't going to see, any ridiculous stuff like that. You weren't going to see Stone Cold Steve Austin, like fall and slip on a skateboard or something goofy. Okay, maybe that didn't happen, but I'm just saying you would not see, ridiculous stuff that would compromise a big superstar's integrity on the show. They wouldn't go that far with the unpredictability. And right now it's not unpredictable because you expect every single match now in AEW to be a hotly contested 50-50 match where everyone is always obsessed with getting all their moves in. If they don't pull off their entire moveset in the match, then I guess Meltzer won't give it 5 stars and consider it to be the best wrestling show of the week. Anyway, after that, they all beat up on Moxley, the Inner Circle. They come in. Jericho takes one of the spikes off his jacket, supposedly stabs it in Moxley's eye, which puts him out of commission. We've got MJF and the Butcher and the Blade defeating DDP, GT, what was it? Was it GT Marshall or DT Marshall? Whatever that guy's. Who was that? Who is GT Marshall? Or DT Marshall? Some jobber who just gets knocked off the apron. Who cares? I think he got pinned in the match. And Dustin. They get beat by MJF. So DDP comes back, already loses. I'm sorry, but that was so lame. Okay, DDP, he looked good in there and everything. He was moving around pretty nimbly. I'm not surprised because of, the DDP yoga, but, a guy of his age was moving pretty gracefully in there. I didn't think he needed to climb up, and do another ridiculous, plancha off that. Seriously, Ricky Morton does a plancha, Robert Gibson is doing planchas. What? Huh? Look, I understand that The Undertaker has done a plancha, but, that used to feel special because he only did it sometimes and he mostly did it at WrestleMania. Now, everyone does a Canadian Destroyer. Everyone does a plancha. Oh my God, just stop this cringiness already. I'm getting so sick and tired of this, that everyone is doing these ridiculous moves that don't even look good. Anyway, so then we move on. We've got Pac defeating Darby Allin. And again, it's another 50-50 spot fest match. And you look at Pac, it's another guy with a great physique. Pac has got great promo skills. You guys know that when it comes to this company, Pac is pretty much at the top of my list of guys that should be the top star. This guy outperforms the rest. I don't think he really needs to be in there doing all those high spots. The way he was wrestling in WWE was just fine. Just a few spots here and there. But, the guy is good with his ground game because he's good with his body language. He's good with his face. He's good with his promos. He could tell a good story. They just need to stop putting him in these ridiculous matches. He went in there undefeated. They give up his undefeated victory in a tag match. Then they have him lose to, I don't know who it was even, in a very forgettable match on Dynamite. And, they sacrificed everything that was special about Pac from, from a in-ring standpoint, why would you do that to him? And then you're going to have him go in there, and wrestle Trent Beretta to a 50-50 match where that guy's bouncing off barricades and spearing him. No selling moves. And we got the same thing from Darby Allin. A lot of no selling, a lot of near falls and kickouts, and then in the end, Pac grabs the mic, says that he is the number one contender. This was supposed to be who would meet Moxley this match, for the number one contendership. Moxley breaks out of the ambulance, says that, he is going to be facing Pac no matter what, happens. And the thing wasn't it already determined that Moxley was the number one contender? Isn't this what they did with Britt Baker, where it was like, hey, you think you're number one contender? Yoink! Stop changing everything. Stay consistent with it at least. You can't even get to the pay-per-view without changing the person. I understand if you thought you made a mistake, but I'm pretty sure, Moxley's the guy you want to go with. But I'm going to honestly say this. Moxley is boring to me. He's not entertaining. It's the same problems with him in WWE they're having here. He's not clicking. I said make him a psycho. Don't make him the tough guy persona, because he's not good at it. I'm sorry, he's not tough enough for that gimmick. It doesn't work for him. He doesn't come off as a tough guy. He definitely has more of a look of a psychotic. And I'm saying that would work. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he sat down with someone like Al Snow or Mick Foley, I'm sure that they could help this guy out and point him in the right direction. Remember, he was going to have a feud with Mick Foley in NXT. That was a big thing for a time, or I think it might have been FCW, whatever the case may be. The guy was feuding with Mick Foley, and I don't understand how this guy didn't pick his brain, or he wants to do this character, and just AEW is, someone is like Tony Khan is preventing him. I don't know. I've got a feeling maybe Moxley just wants to do the tough guy character, and he's insisting on doing it, and that's why we're getting this. Because otherwise, it doesn't look like AEW really has any rules about not acting a certain way or doing something, like that you want to do. It's all about, like, obviously who they give the most time. It's like no one is able to develop really any type of character, because these matches just go on forever. There's no room for story. When they do have a story, it's, just one little thing with, like, Inner Circle, and first of all, like, we'll talk about Inner Circle really quickly here. Well, we don't know anything about Inner Circle. There's Inner Circle fans, people with Inner Circle t-shirts. Besides Chris Jericho, what do we know about Sammy Guevara? What do we know about Santino and Ortiz besides the stupid facial expressions that Ortiz makes? Jack Hagar has yet to wrestle a match. He's just a guy that's undefeated in MMA. Oh, okay, what if you don't watch MMA? Who is this guy? Like, who knows? This is what I'm saying. You don't know anything about Inner Circle, so there's nothing to like about them. In NWO, you knew who Nash was. You know who Hall was. You knew Hulk Hogan. They pretty much spoke for themselves. They were already established characters, and they further established themselves with their personalities and their gimmicks. Here, it's just like, here's some guys, we'll put them together. You'll figure it out, right? You're fans. You'll figure out something to like with these guys, right? You'll like anything. Here you go. Just shove that in your face. I mean, that's basically Dynamite. Let's shove this in your face. We know you're going to love it. Never mind the fact that the ratings are not increasing, that the ratings are pretty stagnant, and if anything, they just drop from time to time. I mean, and is that really a surprise? Because, really, seriously, unless you like really long 50-50 high spot wrestling matches, what else is there to enjoy on this show? You tell me, honestly. I have yet to see anyone in the comments that can, tell me exactly what I should like about this show, what I should be a fan of on this show, what I should be praising. Because I don't, I praise Pac. I like Pac. I do. I not that I don't like Moxley, but this is not the character for him. I'm not going to knock, people and say, that they're not athletic and stuff like that. But these matches need to be cut down and they need to be performed in a more believable fashion because it's like a video game match. I feel like I'm playing the first SmackDown on PlayStation where guys are getting right up after finishers, getting right back to their feet. They miss a moonsault, they get right back to their feet. Come on. There needs to be some semblance of some logic in these matches. I've said it time and time again. I know it's fake, but they at least need to make it look somewhat real. I mean, come on, guys. Like, are you really, really enjoying this show? Do you really feel it's that much better than Raw and SmackDown? Because to me, I'm telling you, it's worse. It is a lot worse to me. Just, I don't know. WWE also comes off as a lot less pretentious. This AEW is just like, they got a real chip on the show. We could just do whatever we want, make the matches as long as we want. There's no sense of format. And WWE's formatting is bad. But as bad as their formatting is, AEW's is that much worse. And that's really disturbing. Anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the review. Great bash at the beach, right? Fantastic. It was a real bash. Anyway, guys, like I said, subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell so you get all notifications when I post on my new videos. And, guys, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.